Next one from J.D. Vance. Democrats are about to shut down the government because they demand we fund health care for illegal aliens. Yes, yes, yes. 154,000, man. 6.7 million just 11 hours ago. Scott Turner, do Dems really want to hurt the American people by halting this economic resurgence with their petty Schumer shutdown? Once again, Dems are putting politics over principles. So this was on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business. It's about a minute or so.
How would you assess the macro story today?
Right. Well, the macro story right now is, first of all, that inflation has dropped sharply since President Trump took office. Growth has been very high. We've got industrial production at an all-time high, capital spending up 8% so far this year. Mortgage rates are down in part because of the tariff revenues, down by about 70 basis points. So the typical new home buyer right now is saving $250 a month because of the lower interest rates, because of these policies. And the thing, when we go back and talk about the disappointing Fed policies that the president's talked about, one of the things that I found odd, and Governor Myron has been talking about it, is that economic theorists know that if tariffs have any effect on prices, that it'll be a one-time adjustment, not an increase in inflation. And to have Austin Goolsbee and a lot of the other people that are on the FOMC talking about how inflation is why they're being so restrictive is, contrary to fundamental economic policy, economic theory. And I think that Governor Myron is just pointing that out. And I actually see, watching the Fed people discuss inflation and tariffs over the last few days, that they're moving towards the consensus, which is the economic consensus, that if there were to be a price increase from tariffs, that it would not be inflationary. It would be a one-time movement. And I think that's a good thing if you're optimistic about future rate cuts.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I think the economy on paper appears to be in really good shape. Stock market is exploding. I mean, like the Dow is up at like 46,000. Just 15 years ago, the Dow was only like 6,800, like back in 2009. And right now it's at 46,000. It's ballooned up like crazy. So, I mean, gold is way up. Silver is crazy up. I think silver, last I checked, was like $43 for an ounce. Like only 4 or 5 years ago, it was like 16, 15 bucks. So, yeah, everything's going way up. Even though gold and silver, when it skyrockets, isn't that supposed to signal that the economy is on a downward trend, or it's about to be, if not already in a full, spiral? I don't know. I think people are tapped out. Everyday Americans are really tapped out, is at least about as much as they can be. And if there are some companies who do want to play the whole, we're going to increase our prices due to the tariffs, I don't think they're going to be really met with much cooperation. I think people are just going to simply just not buy any of those products, especially if they're not absolutely necessity level products. So anyway, this one comes from Congressman Mike Lawler. I joined CNN this morning to discuss my op-ed in the New York Post, calling out the hypocrisy among Democrats on the government shutdown, as well as the latest developments in Ukraine, Russia, and with NATO. It's a bit of a long one, but I wanted to include this because it is CNN. He is a Republican on CNN. I don't know really much of anything about Mike Lawler, to be honest with you, so I don't know if he's like one of those establishment rhinos or not. New York 17th District, yeah, he's a rhino. I bet he's probably a rhino. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be that harsh on him just because he comes from New York. Maybe he is from a region where it's, I don't know, America first, maybe. I somehow doubt it, though, but all right, anyway, I'll shut up.
A Republican from New York. Congressman, great to see you this morning. You've got a new
I'm not familiar with them.
in the New York Post out this morning. Well, you say you reject political gamesmanship that hurts the very people we were elected to serve. So what do you think of this new letter from OMB? Does that constitute gamesmanship?
Well, let's be clear about where we are. House Republicans passed a continuing resolution last week to keep the government funded and open. Senate Democrats, of which it will require at least 7 to vote with the 53 Republicans to keep the government funded and pass a bill through the Senate, refused to actually do that. Now, Chuck Schumer, who served as Senate Majority Leader for the prior 4 years, said repeatedly on loop that we cannot shut the government down, that it would be destructive to the American people, that it would cut off Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, that we cannot try to hold the American people hostage.
Oh yeah, man, full stop. Hold on, man. Like I said, he didn't sound familiar. just to start off with, but just real quick. Yes, Rep. Mike Lawler is aligned with America First policies. President Trump actually endorsed him as a true America First patriot for securing the border and boosting the economy. So a million apologies, Mike Lawler. My apologies. There's what, 435 different members of Congress, so it's kind of hard to stay on top of each and every one of them. So, but yeah, so he isn't one of those CNN quote unquote Republican rhinos that you find on the mainstream news that tend to side with Democrats more than anything. Which right out the gate, just how he started this interview, you could already tell that he's not one of those types of rhino Republicans.
That no president could pound the table and demand they get their way. And yet that's exactly what Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are doing. It is fundamentally wrong. I reject it when Republicans do it, and I reject it when Democrats do it. I have voted for every continuing resolution for a reason, because no one wins in a government shutdown. The American people are the ones that lose. The economy,
especially the military,
loses.
Law enforcement.
It is wrong. We end up spending more money because of the interest we have to pay on the money that is frozen. So at the end of the day here, we need to pass a continuing resolution. The Speaker has put forth a bill that does that keeps the government.
Could this dude come off as any less interested than he possibly can?
Government funded through November 21st, so that we can finish our appropriations work.
All right, shut up. My
There is
turn.
not one legitimate reason that Democrats should not support a continuing resolution. They have voted for it every time when Joe Biden and Barack Obama were president. The only reason I could think of is they just don't want to support a continuing resolution with Donald Trump as president,
So back
which
to my
is truly
question.
outrageous when you look at what we have to deal with.
So back to my question, Congressman. Do you support the OMB letter? If there is a shutdown, do you support the idea of using it for mass firings at the agencies?
For mass firings?
What
Yeah,
happens
why not?
every time
Are
we've
you talking
had a
smaller
shutdown is that
government?
The executive branch has to make
Smaller government?
determinations
Getting rid of
as
the
to
bloat?
what
Fuck
is
yeah.
essential and what is not.
Of course, they're not
Barack
going to frame
Obama
it that
did
way.
That in 2013, shut down numerous
These are
agencies
permanent. This
and
is a call.
departments,
This is a call
for well
permanent.
over a month, creating
This is a call, Congressman. This is different.
The fact
This is different.
We need to
Congressman,
keep
can I get my
the
question?
government open and funded. So, John,
This is a call
there's
for
very
permanent
simple
firings.
solution.
I'm just asking
Senate
if there is a
Democrats
shutdown.
would join Senate Republicans and pass the continuing
He's going to
resolution.
stonewall him. Love it.
What exactly is Chuck Schumer's basis for not passing a clean CR? By the way,
Understand, Congressman?
these are Biden spending levels.
I'm not sure the
and
audio
Biden
is
policy
working here,
riders
Congressman.
in the clean CR.
Because
This
I'm
is
trying
not
to ask
Trump
you.
spending levels
I'm
or
just trying to
Trump
ask you about the
policy
OMB
riders.
letter. I'm
So
just
there
trying
is
to ask you.
absolutely zero
Yeah, you can see him
justification on the
talking.
Democratic side to oppose a clean CR.
I like
was
this
asking
guy
about
already.
The OMB letter. I'll try one more time. I think you can hear me. If there is a shutdown, do you support permanent layoffs at federal agencies? Do you support this move? Yes or no?
No, I don't. Again, John, no, I don't support permanent layoffs at these agencies. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is that we actually have a bill to keep the government funded and open. And you should be asking Chuck Schumer what is the valid and legal justification that he has not to pass a clean CR.
Well, this is only a temporary bill. They're going to be voting on another spending bill in like 6 weeks. So it's really ridiculous that Democrats are trying to stand on this ridiculousness anyway. This is just like some just a brief period of time before they get to the next spending bill, as far as I understand.
Go look at my op-ed. I quoted Chuck Schumer. I quoted Nancy Pelosi. I quoted Hakeem Jeffries. Every time there was a clean CR on the table, they lectured Republicans and America about the need to keep the government funded and open. I'm simply saying we have a bill to do that. House Republicans have done that. We can avoid all these layoffs that you're concerned about, John,
I was
by
asking,
passing a clean CR.
I was asking about your view.
Open.
I was asking about your view of OMB, and I do appreciate you answering that question specifically.
I'll say he answered it.
A tweet about Ukraine yesterday after President Trump came out and said that Ukraine may be able to get all of its land back. You said, quote, agreed, Mr. President, Vladimir Putin is not our friend. He's a vile dictator and thug. We must stand with Ukraine and our European allies in their time of need. Russia, be warned. Stop effing around.
Fucking around?
Or you'll find out. Love the phrase, F around and you'll find out.
I'm sure
One
you
of my
do,
favorites.
Mr. CNN.
But my question is, what will they find out and from whom? because I don't think President Trump has issued any new promise of American involvement.
It's called political posturing. It's called him talking shit.
What the
That's what he was
president
doing.
said the other day, obviously, is the importance of continuing to fund NATO, our NATO allies, and continue to provide them with the weapons needed. As
Yeah,
we've
well, they
seen,
need to
Russia
pay their
has
fair
had
share.
incursions into NATO airspace. The president has said our NATO allies should.
Well, plus Trump might start changing his mind after that whole debacle with the UN meeting that happened the other day when the escalator suddenly stopped. That was sabotage number one. And then number two was teleprompter was shut off for 15 minutes. Sabotage number two. And the third sabotage was that they cut his microphone for his entire speech and nobody in the fucking room heard him even speak. Not even the first lady who was sitting up there in the front row. Even she said she didn't hear a word that he said during that entire fucking speech.
Shoot down those Russian.
Now, I get it. UN, NATO, I get that they're not the exact same thing. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure in some way or another, they're probably, at a minimum, probably loosely intertwined with one another, probably.
Planes and or drones that come into NATO airspace. I've been very clear on this war from the beginning. The failure here was early on. The Biden administration should have put in place secondary sanctions on Russia. And as I have repeatedly said, and the president said again yesterday, our European allies need to stop purchasing Russian gas. You cannot stop a war that you are helping fund.
Damn straight.
We need to cripple Russia's economy. We need to cut off their funding source.
He's 100% right. It makes no sense why they're doing that. I get it. They've been buying energy from Russia for decades. It's just a long established relationship with, you know, getting the energy from Russia. Even though the United States, we've already said that we'll supply the energy. I don't know if we're going to charge extra because we have to ship it or whatever. I'm sure, though, that we can work something out. Maybe we've got some partnership going on with Saudi Arabia where perhaps we can do some, I don't know, business with one another. So then maybe the oil could come from Saudi Arabia instead of directly from us. Maybe we purchase oil from there. I don't even know. I don't know all the inner workings with all that shit. But I think he's got a really good point. It makes no sense that Europe is just dumping money into Russia when they could just be getting their energy from another source, if not from the U.S., from some other ally. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think that they're going to stop. I'm pretty sure Trump mentioned that when he was giving his speech at the UN, and I don't know if they're really putting themselves on a pathway to decouple from Russia energy dependence. Not so sure. Doesn't seem like they are, though.
So that they cannot continue to fund this war, certainly not at the levels that they have. And we need to enact secondary sanctions that cripple the economies of anyone doing business with Russia. The fact is, Russia is the aggressor here. Vladimir Putin is a vile dictator and thug. And everything he has done, along with his allies in Iran and China, have sought to undermine and destabilize the United States, Europe, Israel, and the free world. We need to lead in this moment. I've been very clear on that from the start of this war. And from my vantage point, it is time to enact secondary sanctions. It is time for Europe to stop purchasing Russian gas. And it is time for NATO to take action.
Man, he's heavy-handed against Russia.
Thank you.
All right, there you have it. So that was the interview, CNN. And yeah, my apologies, Mike Lawler. Wasn't exactly sure who you were. I know now. Anyway, from Senate Republicans, Senator Schiff's shutdown demands do not serve the American people. Last Friday, he voted to shut down the American government unless foreign countries get billions of dollars for woke projects and illegal aliens get free health care. They're responding to Adam Shifty Schiff. Donald Trump wants a shutdown. Senate Republicans are following his orders. Democrats want a bipartisan deal to protect families from higher health care costs. The choice is clear. Serve Trump or serve the American people. More hyperbolic language, just more divisive language. Anyway, hopefully indictments are going to be coming down on Adam Schiff any day now that James Comey's indictments are now officially out of the way. Now they can pave the way for Adam Schiff to come up next. Hopefully. Do they actually? I don't even know. Like, do they even make that public? I don't think they do, though, do they? No. I mean, I know that the grand jury meets in secret, but don't they at least give you? Here, let me just check. I don't know if they might actually have a date or anything. I'm assuming they don't, but I can always just check. Let's do short. All right. and I'll come back to that. It's been quick the last few times I've checked it. All right, so Ways and Means Democrats, what the math breaks down to is that 15 million people are going to lose their health care insurance. Oh no, because of the evil big bad Republicans. All right, so we're going to make that video happen here in just a second. Yes, grand juries are actively weighing potential criminal indictments against Senator Adam Schiff. Oh, they're doing it right now. Well, for alleged mortgage fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, and false statements to financial institutions, based on investigations reported in August of 2025. I want to say, because I believe I read this somewhere, I think he's looking at like the maximum penalty he could be facing is like 10 years or 20 years or so. Not sure if it'll say it or not. Maybe there isn't an exact way to tell. I assume that there is. I mean, if they indict him on all of those charges, then it should be a pretty clear answer. Holy shit! Uh-oh. Max penalties per count. Mortgage fraud up to 30 years imprisonment. No way that's happening. Mail fraud up to 30 years imprisonment. Bank fraud, 30 years. False statements to financial institutions, up to 30 years in prison. Holy shit, man. Could you imagine if he was found guilty on all counts and they sentenced him in consecutive sentences? The dude would never get out of prison. Never again. Wow, man, Adam Schiff, he's facing potentially up to, 120 years in prison? Not that it's going to happen. I mean, come on. We know that ain't going to happen. Anyway, not to say he's not going to get indicted, but, well, I technically didn't really finish that. But let's see. One grand jury is seated in the Eastern District of Virginia, and another in Maryland is considering charges related to his Maryland property. These developments stem from a DOJ probe with Schiff creating a legal defense fund amid the scrutiny. So wow, man, reported in August 2025. So yeah, they're actively weighing the criminal indictments right now. That is absolutely wild. So I suppose any day now, or maybe even any minute now, we might hear that indictments are being handed down against Adam Schiff. That'd be crazy. So at that point, he'd have to turn himself in, right? Just like James Comey. All right, so let's give this a play. This is hilarious, man. Like just notice the lack of information he actually delivers when he's talking about this. The whole 15 million people losing their health care. Here we go.
What did you find?
Yeah, look, as you said, Mika, healthcare has become the major issue in this shutdown, and for good reason, as I'm going to show you. You haven't heard Republicans say lately, let's repeal Obamacare.
All right, hold on. Healthcare spending cuts by provision. Let's see. EPTC expiration, 27%. Don't know what the fuck that means. Work requirements, 26%. Make it more difficult for states to fund Medicaid, 15%. Limit payments to providers, 12%. Other 5%. What the hell does all that shit even mean? It really doesn't. They've got all this space to explain whatever the hell that these different color code boxes mean.
I don't think, I haven't heard it. You probably haven't heard it because it's not popular to say that. So they've been doing it surreptitiously, piece by piece. They are dismantling Obamacare, and that is what the Democrats are fighting for in this go-round. So
Dude, everyday Americans aren't fucking idiots, man. Obamacare has been getting extremely expensive since it was first conceived. Since they first rolled it out, it's been going up like crazy. I've already mentioned this twice, but just for shits and giggles, I submitted an application for Obamacare back when I was 35 or so. It was 7 years ago. Something like that. I mean, I'm 41 right now, but I'm guessing it was around then. And I applied for it. And to get the same level of insurance that I had before Obamacare started, it was $1,400 a month. And that's without pre-existing conditions. Because I didn't list any pre-existing conditions because, I've technically, I've got a herniated disc in my back, but I didn't put that on there. I didn't want to get into the weeds with all that. I just wanted to find out, an able-bodied, mid-30s man who's got nothing serious going on. How much is it going to cost? $1,400. I'm not going to pay $1,400 for fucking Obamacare. And I don't think hardly anybody would either. It's fucking insane.
Take a look at the numbers. Obamacare started right about in here and with about 45 million Americans uninsured at the time. We brought it all the way down here to 25 million. In other words, 20 million Americans got insurance, largely, if not entirely, because of Obamacare.
Oh, so that's the number of people that have insurance. So that does include people who are not on Obamacare. Oh, and plus unemployment was a lot higher back then. You remember that? Coming right out of the 2008 crisis, unemployment was pretty high for at least a few years. So then, people got back to work. People started getting more insurance. So this isn't exclusively Obamacare. I mean, I guess you got to listen carefully to his words. But look at this. This is all just assumptions from this point on. This is all quote unquote projected, which, all right, whatever. I'll just play it out.
And now a combination of changes is going to bring that back up here. And it's going to take away 70% of the people who got health insurance under Obamacare are going to lose it, both because of what's in the big, beautiful bill
and what is that?
What's on the table right now.
All right, what is that? What is in the big, beautiful bill and what's on the table? He said those two things. What are those two things, sir?
Which I'm going to explain.
Oh, yeah?
You can see it breaks down to a few pieces. These are the changes made in the big, beautiful bill. That's 10 million of this.
Okay, so those are the two big changes he's talking about. So let's break this down. One big, beautiful bill act, Medicaid changes, plus 7.5 M. The fuck does that even mean? Oh, no, there's changes. And then the other one, ACA marketplace and other changes, 2.5 million. Okay, you're giving us numbers. You're not giving us what's happening. You're just giving us a random number. I mean, I get it. It's not random per se, but it's, it might as well be fucking random.
And now what's on the table for this shutdown would be 4.2 million more people losing their health insurance if the Republicans get their way.
Yeah, whatever. I'll actually repost this because I know I interrupted it a few times. So if you want to check it out, you can go to my profile. It's Spathon, the same as my YouTube my YouTube name, except it's got an N as in November at the end. So, or you can just go straight to Ways and Means Democrats. Ways, Means, CMTE. And yeah, he didn't give us any information at all. And I'm assuming they cut him off. I don't know why the hell they did. It's almost like they want to deliberately keep their voters as ignorant as humanly possible. I just found that to be funny. Matter of fact, I think I commented to that effect. Notice in the clip, he didn't explain how the big, beautiful bill cut insurance to Americans. He just gave a random number of people without any explanation whatsoever. Basically gaslighting, but without the gas. All right. Anyway, so let's just move on to the next thing. So like the next several posts, I'm just going to run through them pretty quick. They have to do with Democrats and what they're all talking about. They're all in lockstep right now. They're all talking about this Affordable Care Act. The one big beautiful bill is destroying healthcare. Everybody's going to lose their insurance. Of course, they're not mentioning the whole illegal immigrant aspect of it. They also don't mention the fact that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are on Medicare or Medicaid, and they're fraudulently getting benefits. They're not supposed to be on benefits for a number of reasons. They could be able-bodied. Maybe they're making too much money and they've been lying over the last X amount of years. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different reasons that they might be getting cut. But of course, the Democrats aren't going to talk about that. They're just going to say, oh my God, 24.3 million are going to lose their health care, which they don't ever explain how. They say the one big ugly bill all the time, but they don't exactly like, okay, dude, which section, which subsection? Like, if you don't want to give us the text, at least give us the page number and give us the paragraph number or something. But of course they don't do that because I think they're full of shit. Anyway, thanks to the Affordable Care Act and enhanced premium tax credits, which are never meant to be permanent, by the way, Democrats delivered health care to millions of Americans, 24.3 million to be exact. Now President Trump and Republicans have a choice. Protect the health insurance of millions or shut down the government. In MA-01, Massachusetts District 1, 29,000 people face higher health care costs. Democrats are ready to negotiate a deal that lowers costs for American families. Where are the Republicans? Because we don't want to give money to your illegal immigrants who you are protecting in your sanctuary cities. All right, so the next one, Nanette D. Barragan. House Republicans are about to let critical healthcare tax credits expire. They already cut billions in Medicaid funding in their big, ugly law. They're making healthcare more expensive and less accessible for working Americans. Republicans refuse to work with House Democrats to find a solution to keep the government open and keep Americans covered. If there is a shutdown, Republicans own it, not us. From Pocahontas, it's sick. The only thing the Trump administration is doing is raising costs and putting Americans' health at risk. Ripping away healthcare from 15 million people, making it harder to get life-saving vaccines. That's a load of horseshit. And actually, RFK Jr. came out and doubled down and said, no, we're not removing any access to vaccines in any way, shape, or form. We're just removing the government forcing people to get vaccines that they don't want to get. The access will still be there. If you make below whatever threshold that it's been for years and years, if you don't make enough money and you qualify, you can still get all those vaccines for free. He said none of that shit is changing. Anyway, gutting clinical trials for child cancer treatment. I'm sure another load of horse shit. Really, point that out in the big, beautiful bill. I would love to know that, because I will throw flack at Republicans if that funding was there, if it was reasonable. I mean, if they had like $17 billion going toward it, that's a bit excessive. But look, if there was some funding from the government for child cancer treatment, I don't know, like 20 million or 50 million or something like that. And if that's been the case for X amount of years, yeah, I would have a beef with Republicans with regard to that, especially if they're making breakthroughs and they can actually prove that they're making breakthroughs. Bring the doctors, the researchers in front of the committee, show that we're making actual, tangible, real world progress with regard to child cancer treatment. And I'm all for it. As long as they're making adequate progress, sure. But I think she's completely full of shit. Anyway, forcing rural hospitals to close. Yeah, we know that's a bunch of bullshit, because the One Big Beautiful Bill allocated $50 billion just for that exactly. It's the Democrats who are trying to shut that down. Raising health insurance premiums as well. Anyway, Mark Warner, let's be clear what's going on with the government funding fight. It's about nothing more than the cost of your health care. It doesn't matter if your coverage is Medicaid, employer-sponsored, or from the ACA. If Republicans have their way, your costs are going up. Sheldon Whitehouse, wondering what's on our totally unserious radical wish list? It's affordable health care. God forbid. And Rep. Don Beyer, Republicans and Trump gave each millionaire an average tax cut big enough to give 4 people health care. They didn't have to do that. It was a choice. They chose to rip health care from millions and cut taxes for the rich. Now they're raising health care costs for millions more. Yep. Anyway, moving on. Well, here, let me just take a quick look here. New analysis on the GOP's mega bill's core policy choice. Each millionaire's tax cut is paid for by taking away health insurance from 4 people while reducing healthcare benefits from many workers. Horse shit, dude. I challenge you beyond belief to prove that's literally what they did. No, they didn't. He's a fucking liar, man. That's all these Democrats are good for. They're only good for fucking lying. Anyway, Senator John Hickenlooper, this is intimidation. It does nothing to lower costs for working families, and it is an excuse to speedrun Project 2025. Dude, 2025 is almost over, dumb fuck. We can fund the government and lower healthcare costs. Why wouldn't Republicans take that deal? And Senator Ben Ray Lujan, President Trump's tariffs are raising prices. The Republican budget betrayal ripped healthcare away from families. And now the Republican White House, Senate, and House are steering us toward a government shutdown. Families are paying the price for their cruelty, and the public isn't buying it. Senate Dems are fighting to lower costs, protect healthcare, and keep our government open. Congresswoman Raul Ruiz, MD, we're just days away from a Republican shutdown. Even with the full control of Congress and the White House, they're choosing chaos that working families can't afford. I'll always fight to protect your healthcare, lower costs, and keep the government working for you, and I'll keep you updated every step of the way. So, yeah, by the way, only 19 likes. 66 likes, 75 likes. I mean, nobody's paying attention to these idiots. 19. Let's see. Sheldon Whitehouse usually gets a fair amount. Mark Warner, 484. Yeah, kind of on the lower end. Elizabeth Warren, that's actually kind of low for Elizabeth Warren, to be honest. Only 8 from her, only 7 from this dude. So yeah. Anyway, but still, this is just. I'm not looking for viral posts or anything. I'm just looking to show you that all of these Democrats, these are all posted today. They're all in lockstep. They're all talking about how Republicans, they're deleting all of our health care, which isn't true at all. I mean, it may pertain to illegal immigrants. Yeah, we're taking health care from them. I'm sure that's in the One Big Beautiful Bill, but I'm sure most Americans are all in favor of that, because 78% of Americans are in favor of mass deportations.